Here are all of your ingredients, just as is. Take notes, take notes. So I like to use thin spaghetti, ginger, Bob Evans zesty sausage, ground beef, Hunt's traditional pasta sauce. I don't like to use the meat or with the vegetables in it. I just like the plain sauce. Then we have sliced pepperonis, sofrito tomato cooking base, dried cilantro. You can use fresh cilantro if you want. Sazon Goya, Nor chicken bouillon, black pepper, a red onion, garlic, and the tricolored bell peppers. And then we're also going to make some garlic bread. So these are all the ingredients. Let's get started. All right, so I have a large stock pot with some water boiling. And to that, we're going to add a little bit of salt and some olive oil. So I already have salt in there, and I just want a little bit of olive oil. And then we're going to go ahead and open up our pasta. Some people break it apart, like in half. You can do it whichever way you want. I do like to break mine in half, but since I added enough water, I'm just going to go ahead and drop it in whole. So I'm going to do both boxes. Okay. So I have another heavy pot that I'm going to render my ground beef in, and this is about 2.5 pounds ground beef. And once the ground beef gets almost done, I'm going to go ahead and add in my Bob Evans zesty sausage as well. Okay? So that's cooking on down, nice and even. And we're allowing the temperature of the pot to get back up before we add in more meat. We don't want to totally get the pan cooled all the way down. And in the back, I already have another sort of a skillet ready, nice and semi-warm, so I can go ahead and saute my vegetables. So that's going to stay on warm, okay, while we wait. All right, so let's go ahead and add in our sausage, that zesty sausage. Now, this recipe calls for 3 types of meat. So you know we have our ground beef, and we also have that zesty sausage, which is pork. And then we're going to add a little bit more pork to it. And I use pepperonis as well. Now, I add the pepperonis not to the meats while they're frying up or sauteing up. I add it to the sauce. So if you don't want to use pork pepperonis, you can also get the turkey pepperonis. And if you don't want to use the pork sausage or the zesty pork sausage, you can find a zesty turkey sausage as well, okay? So if you don't want to use pork, you don't have to. You can substitute. So I'll tell you a little secret why I choose to cook my meat in the stock pot versus cooking it in the skillet. It's because when you're cooking the meat in the skillet, or this amount of meat in the skillet, you're going to have that grease splattering everywhere. So as it cooks, it's not going to allow the meat to splatter. As you see, it's just going to lightly steam it as well as frying it at the same time. But there's no splatter, okay? So that's Nene's trick. You can use it at home too. Now while the pasta is on the last 2 minutes, because it's going to take about 10 to 12 minutes for the pasta to become al dente, okay? You're going to go ahead and check on your meat and see how none of the meat is pink. And then we're going to strain it. Remove all of that excess oil and grease. So once you bring it back to the stove, after you have removed all that excess grease, you want to make sure that the meat comes back up to temperature. And you're going to add in your sauce. And I'm going to use 3 cans of the Hunt's traditional. So I'm going to open up the third one in a second. Only had 2 open. And then we're going to add an entire jar of the sofrito. It's a tomato cooking base. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the other sauce. And you can use less sauce if you're going to be cooking less meat or making a less of an amount of spaghetti. And add that entire jar of that tomato cooking base. That's going to add, it has vegetables in it. It already has seasonings in it. But we're going to add more vegetables and more seasonings. We just want to make sure we're layering the flavor in our spaghetti. We're going to give it a quick stir. Make sure that all the meat is nice and covered. Okay. And then we're going to turn it down on low. Okay. Let it simmer. So I've moved my sauce and meat to the back aisle, and I'm going to allow that to simmer while I go ahead and get my vegetables chopped up. And again, I have a pan that's on warm, and it's already nice and warm, but we're going to heat it up even more right before we add our vegetables in. So I tested the pasta while you were away, getting the ingredients that I showed you at the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and strain and rinse our pasta off with lukewarm water. Not cold water, but lukewarm water. Okay, so I've rinsed off my pasta in lukewarm water, and I'm just going to transfer it to a baking pan. Okay, so I just want to have this nice and ready for me to plate. And I keep it on the stove, just right on top of the stove. And the aisle isn't on. It's not on in the back because I have the oven on, so that's going to help keep it warm. So I've already chopped up an onion, or the red onion, and I just wanted to do a little prep with y'all with my peppers here. Now with the peppers, I don't like mine to be, the chunks to be really big. I like for mine to be nice and finely diced. So if you have a food processor and you want to use that instead, by all means, but I like to hand chop mine. So I just like to cut along the ribs real quick, gather them together, even them up, and then chop them on down. And this is about how big I like to have my vegetables, right about that size, okay? So you want to do your red, yellow, and green, all that size. So our sauce is still going. We haven't added the seasonings yet to the sauce. But what we want to do is allow that sauce and the meat to marry together, and allow the sauce a little bit of time to go ahead and cook down. We want to have that sofrito and that tomato based sofrito and that spaghetti sauce to marry together and cook down a little bit. So you want to allow your sauce to cook first before you start adding seasonings, because as I noticed, you can over season your spaghetti if you add the seasonings to it too early and you don't allow the sauce to cook down. So I've added about a quarter of a stick of butter to my skillet here, and here are all the vegetables that I'm going to put inside. The red or purple onion, a whole green pepper, an orange pepper, and a red. All of these, yes, I add. We're going to throw them straight in. Now, when I fry these up or saute them up, I don't want them to become totally tender, because we're also going to add them to the sauce. So we don't want to overcook the vegetables either, because again, we're going to add that and combine into the sauce, and it's going to continue to cook together. And just like they say in TV land, that smells good, okay? So we're going to give these about 3 or 4 minutes, and while those are sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and chop my garlic. All right, so our tricolored peppers and onions are nicely rendering down, becoming semi-translucent. And remember, we don't want to make them too translucent, or we don't want to overcook them well before we put them in our sauce, because they're going to continue to cook in the sauce. So what I'm going to do to make sure that my garlic doesn't overcook as well, I'm going to move the peppers to the side, and they're going to help retain some of the heat in the pan. And then right beside them, we're going to add in the garlic. just like that. So that's going to make sure that garlic doesn't overcook. That's a trick for you at home. So my garlic is starting to pop in the pan. That's how you know it's done. We're going to go ahead and mix it in with the other vegetables. It only takes less than a minute to cook the garlic. Just as simple. And now I'm going to, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to move this pot forward, okay? And then we're going to cook on the front. Okay? Now let's go ahead and add in our vegetables. All of those peppers, onions, and that delicious garlic. Get all the little bits in there. Alright? Just like so, okay? Now, we're going to stir this around, give it one quick stir, and then we're going to go ahead and add in our seasonings. As you can imagine, y'all, this smells real good already. So, to our sauce, make sure it turned down a little lower. We're going to go ahead and add some of the chicken bouillon. You can use the tomato bouillon if you want, but we already have a lot of tomato flavor going on. So, you only need about a quarter of a top. 2 packets of the Sazon by Goya. Now they have other brands as well. You can use whatever brand you want. I'm going to add both packets in. Some ginger. I like to add about 2 tablespoons of ginger. Black pepper to taste, how much ever you like. Dried cilantro. Sometimes I do like to use fresh cilantro. But we're going to cheat today. We're going to just use some dried cilantro, okay? And a couple of pinches of white sugar. So, for 2 reasons. One, it's going to serve as a, of course, sweetener to the sauce. So you don't just taste a whole bunch of seasonings. And it's going to balance out your sauce. And then, it's also going to help you from burping too, you know, because we know that tomato sauce can make you kind of gassy, okay? And once this starts to cook around just a little bit, we're going to go ahead and then we're going to add in the last meat, which is that sliced pepperoni. So give your sauce just about 2 or 3 minutes to cook down, okay? So while the sauce is continuing to cook, we're going to go ahead and add in our pepperonis. Remember, this is our last meat. Now these pepperonis are a little thick, so what I'm going to do is not slice them thinly, but just go ahead and cut them in half instead of adding extra. Because, you know, pepperonis do have oil in it too. So you don't want to add in too many pepperonis. Because, again, it's going to start to render that oil. And that's going to go right in your sauce. Just like that. We're going to give it a quick stir. Move it to the back and let it cook. And then we're going to go ahead and make our garlic bread. So let's go ahead and make our garlic bread because our sauce probably has about a good 5 more minutes. But, you know, you don't have to make your own garlic bread. Of course, you can go right to the freezer section and buy some delicious garlic bread. But we decided to go all out for y'all today, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and slice these. Slice the baguette on the angle, just like so. About a 1/4 inch thick. Okay? And we're going to continue all the way down. And I'm going to make sure, since 4 of us are eating tonight, at least we're going to have 2 pieces each. 2, 4, 6. And we got 8. Okay? Now, I had at the ready already in the refrigerator some garlic spread, but you can roast your own garlic in some butter and a little bit of olive oil, and then add some cilantro and parsley to that if you want. Mix it around and spread it over your baguette, okay? But just like this. So I've allowed the spread to get to room temperature. You don't need a whole lot. I'm going to add it into the pan. Keep doing that same rotation until all of the each slice of the baguette is totally covered. Then we're going to toss it in the broiler on high, broil it for at least 1 minute, and then we're ready to eat. Okay, Okay, while that's doing that, I'll toss these on. Some pause. Yeah. I make things work in a little small kitchen.
Sure do.
No. I can get it done. I mean, if I could do anything in that little apartment kitchen. You never came to that apartment, did you?
Yeah, I was.
Did you?
Yeah, that's where we met.
No, the apartment before we moved over here.
Yeah, the apartment and the place on 22nd Street.
The apartment right before we moved over here?
No, yeah.
Give me
Apartment in, was that, tell me that, the community. That was,
Landmark Apartments?
off 95.
No, not that one. I'm talking about the one before we moved right over here.
Oh, nope.
What, let me clean this off, sir. Please. I'll get it. Is that? Oh, sponge. How did that get on
Paper towel.
there?
You want paper towel?
Oh, that was the paper towel?
Or do you want? Which one?
Just need a white plate. So. Thank you.
What kind of ladle do you want?
That red one. Seasoning got spoiled. And we're ready to go. That's the extra piece. Okay. I need my sauce to cook down some
Want this back in the corner?
Yes, please. Get my sauce. The sauce gotta cook some more. And we can make the lemonade real quick. I want to get it didn't want no salad tonight, did it? It's going to be too full
Yeah.
with all that. These are going overboard.
Hold on.
Oh, no, I'm just putting this in the refrigerator. Gotta go get that. By the time I go to therapy, today they work me to death.
Do they?
Yeah.
Tear you up?
Not really tear me up, but it's stretching, you know.
Yeah. God, you make me hurt watching you.
Oh, it's not so much my back today. I took it's been my hips. Oops, and I'm still running. I didn't put it on. All right, so I got my delicious garlic bread that's been nicely toasted right on out the oven, and we're ready to plate, y'all. Let's do it. Boom. Look at that sauce. Come on now. Get with it. Just like so. Wow. You can say wow with me.
Wow.
Wow. I'm going to add just a little bit of that dried cilantro right on top. And there you have it. A delicious spaghetti. It's dinner time. Bon appetit. Until next time, don't forget to love yourself, love your neighbor, and don't forget to kiss the cook. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. By Renee Rochelle, Skillet Slay. Hey, you guys. Thank you for joining me again. It's your girl, Renee Rochelle, Skillet Slay, right? So today, I want you to go ahead and hit like, comment, and share because you're going to want to share this. Look at this spaghetti meal. If you can do it better, let me know. And then send me a video and I'll try it. But I doubt it. Let's get to cooking.